in about 2 to 3 minutes. So DJ is going to keep us company till then. Thank you.
In life, if you understand me or not, misunderstand me or not, me, I'm okay. I'm okay. And if you think I'm wrong or not, long as it's what I want, me, I'm okay. I'm okay. 'Cause who are you to judge me like say you be holy past? I did love my life, get my peace of mind, that I try survive. We all be sinners, my body, nobody holy bad. And my happiness comes first, I never come life to stress, yeah. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor.
I owe nobody an explanation. I don't need nobody motivation. Now my happiness consign me. Happiness consign me. Now it consign me. It don't pay. Where no one day could be paid. So right now, now my happiness consign me. Happiness consign me. Now it consign me. So don't come tell me something I know. You want to dey want me for there. Don't let nobody play with your confidence. Your confidence. Oh, you Sarah, what we be. You want to dey want me for there. Don't let nobody play with your confidence. Your confidence. Oh,
Who are you to judge me like say you be holy past? I did love my life, get my peace of mind, that I try survive. We all be sinners, my body, nobody holy bad. And my happiness comes first, I never come life to stress, yeah. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor. I be like Terminator, I dey deliver, I pass it doctor.
Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you all? Ooh, good morning. It's so lovely to see all of you, and welcome to the 5th edition of Nairobi Lit Fest. Woo! Can I tell you something? This festival combines some of my favorite things. It's like when Nairobi really shows off. We get to be at this beautiful public library and with artists and writers and thinkers. It's so good to see so many favorite old faces and welcome them back home, and new faces. I hope you're comfortable. Yes? Wonderful. My name is Alea Kassim, and I'm your festival host for today. I love being here. Nairobi Lit Fest is co-presented by Book Bank and Hey Festivals Global. Who's been here before? Okay, wonderful. So we have some diehards and some new faves. So this festival really is about a celebration of art, culture, and ideas rooted in the city's public libraries. It is a joyful celebration. I hope you're feeling the energy. There's going to be lots of music winding in and out. There's a fabulous market out there for you to buy beautiful things and hydrate and nourish. Let me tell you, by the time I leave this festival, I leave with my heart full, my brain buzzing, and my wallet quite empty. But buy books, meet each other, and just have a great time. So a little bit of housekeeping. The washrooms are down that way across Ikulu Lane. If you get lost or have any questions, the wonderful humans in the pink vests will be happy to answer any questions. There's free Wi-Fi with no password, lots of food and water, and I'll give you some more information as the day progresses. So now, I want to congratulate you on your excellent decision-making. Can I tell you why? This session that we're starting with is going to be incredible. It brings together two of my favorite writers and one of my favorite moderators. And there's a surprise. Yes, yes, thank you. Let's try it again. Should we try it again? Because by the time the surprise comes, you'll be wishing you had wooed louder. Okay, let's rewind. And there's going to be a surprise. Yes, worthy. All right, so if you'll allow me to introduce our first panel for the morning. This session is called Mythmakers. It is supported by the Open Society Foundation's South to South initiative. Where, even as I'm reading this, okay, Congolese author and academic Alain Mabanckou. Yes. And beloved Kenyan novelist Yvonne Owuor. Y'all are a wonderful audience. Offer up a conversation about the necessity of imagination and challenging received truths. And this session is moderated by Garnette, Oluoch-Olunya. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Alain, Yvonne, and Garnette. I think they need a bit more encouragement. Woo! Yvonne will sit in the middle.
Hello, everybody. Hi, it's great to be here. And before I introduce the panel, or might be by way of introducing the panel. Yvonne, I think I'll introduce you later, but our guest from Congo, Alain Mabanckou, welcome. Now, yesterday evening, I was at the Alliance Française. They've got a festival as well, a literary festival, and amongst other things. And the keynote speaker there was Achille Mbembe. Now, one of the things he said was that, he was talking about Pan-Africanism, and one of the things that he said was that when Africans cross these borders into other African spaces, nobody stops to notice. There is no balamfo or tom-tom played to welcome them. And in fact, as I was speaking to our surprise guest, he said, in fact, there's quite a lot of hostility usually to Africans crossing these borders. So by way of welcome this morning, I'd like to call up a good friend, a musician, Kenyan musician, very versatile, but this morning he will be playing on his guitar, Makadem. Makadem, welcome. Yeah. Now, as he comes up, I just want to tell you, I chose this song. He's going to play something from Papa Wemba, which actually comes out of a novel I was reading by Mabanckou, where he had these young boys, couldn't afford to watch live music, and so an enterprising friend created a hole in the wall in his dad's business. And so he charged the boys for 10 minutes a peek. And this really caught me because the people who were playing in the bar that night were Papa Wemba and Kofi Olomide. And of course, Yvonne, quickly told me, no, but Papa Wemba is not from that Congo. He's from the other Congo. Now, again, borders already coming up. And I was thinking, what do you mean? He's from the Congo? But no. So Papa Wemba was visiting Congo-Brazzaville for this early performance. And so I thought to ask Makadem to welcome. So the red carpet really is Papa Wemba Mabanckou. Karibu. Karibu sana.
Ana bonginze lae Obotika tinga mosika Yango na kombatike ni telengana Okola bisanga nzela Yenge ni yonga yo aninga Nakoluka nzela yabama Oh, batamo kilima be yoro na boinga na zua lobi. Oh, take me by the hand, show me the way I can go. Take me by the hand, show me. Take me by the hand, show me the way I can go. Take me by the hand, show me the way. Botama ya mwana natanga Oye komi tango yeko sangana Utwe inda tango ya mawa Botamo bimba yeko lela Enge ninyonga yo aninga Nakolu kanzela ya bama O batamo kilima be yoro na boinga na zuwa lobi oh. Take me by the hand. Let me hear you. Show me the way I can go. Take me by the hand. Everybody. Show me. Take me by the hand. Show me the way I can go. Take me by the hand. Show me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Makadim, for that piece of music. And yeah, in keeping with the spirit of our conversation, Show Me the Way is about a young man who loses his way, and then he goes back to ask his grandfather for guidance. And this is part of that conversation that we'll be having this morning. And I think through the festival, you know, where Africa is trying to find direction. We're talking South-South, but it's always an Africa trying to find direction. Now, I want to introduce properly now, and Mabanckou, feel most welcome. Feel most welcome. Your book inspired that fantastic moment. Now, I think I should start from the far left, and also because, you know, you're the one who's come from the furthest, and I don't think Yvonne feels threatened. She always feels very equal, so there's no ladies first here. So I'll start with our guest, novelist, journalist, poet, and academic, French citizen. I don't know why this appears in the, and then you're born in the Republic of the Congo, where you grew up in, how do you say this? Pointe-Noire. Yeah, in Pointe-Noire, okay? Now, he also is a professor of literature and creative writing in the Department of French and Francophone Studies and African Studies at UCLA. And his work, as you can see, depicts the experience of contemporary Africa and the African diaspora. He's also one of the most recognized Franco-African writers in France in contemporary literature and has published more than 40 books. He's usually referred to as the African Beckett, sorry. And this is Samuel Beckett, the Irish playwright and poet and literary critic as well. And last night I was just thinking Beckett, and then I realized he did get the prize for literature the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. So he is, Samuel Beckett is a big deal. Mabanckou himself has won, prizes for his work. A prestigious French prize, the Renaudot Prize, for his book Memoirs of a Porcupine. This was in 2006. And his book, Broken Glass, is actually ranked one of the best books of the 21st century in the selected books of 100. That's listed in the UK. His work has also been shortlisted for the International Booker Prize twice, in 2015 for Body of Work, and then again in 2017 for Black Moses, which I had with me, because I wanted at least to, for this one, for Black Moses. I knew I had it with me, okay? Yes, I hope it's available for sale out there, because I know they'll be signing books as well, okay? Yeah. So, what else can I say? He published Bleu, Blanc, Rouge with Présence Africaine. I really like Présence Africaine, so I had to put that one in. The Light of Pointe Noire in 1998. Tomorrow I'll Be 20. That I'm really enjoying. I love Tomorrow I'll Be 20. That's where I got Papa Wemba from. And the other thing you did was a study of James Baldwin, which I found really interesting, of course, because James Baldwin moved to Paris from an oppressive America, and you've moved from Paris to, I don't know what to call the United States right now. Yeah, you can put in whatever adjective you want to put in. Yeah, so that's that reverse crossing I saw right there. Okay, but the thing they've said about him is that he's actually broken the mold when it comes to writing about Africa. Okay, and here, when I read that writing about Africa, of course, it evokes for me a good friend of ours, Binyavanga Wainaina, who had written famously on how to write about Africa. But, you take it to a different level because, of course, you did African Psycho. And this just reminded me of Chimamanda as well because, you know, in her talk, what's the talk called? Pardon? Yeah, Danger of a Single Story. You know, she talks about American Psycho, and we've also got our African Psycho. So this is really wonderful. And then, of course, you've also written The Death of Comrade President. All right. So welcome, Mabanckou.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll also introduce our co-panelist, Yvonne. Now we're smiling because, of course, we know each other because we're both Kenyan. And I've been reading Yvonne since before she published, I think, because I still remember her being very intense about Kwani when they were starting the journal, you know, the first journal, and walking around with proofs and, you know, doing all sorts of things. But she's a Kenyan writer, wonderful Kenyan writer of novels, short stories, essays. Now, she won the 2003 Kane Prize for her book, her small novella, Weight of Whispers, which was actually about refugees in Nairobi. And I remember for the first time, because I was teaching then, I always forget to introduce myself. I'll say something brief after. But at that point, I was teaching, and so I taught this book. And really, with a class, we learned to look at Nairobi differently in terms of the diverse populations, that it is a hard place for a lot of people. So thank you, Yvonne, for that. Yeah. Now, she's also a co-founder of the Macondo Literary Festival. And I can see her co-convener, Anya, is with us today. Welcome, Anya. And she was also the executive director of ZIF, the Zanzibar International Film Festival, a while back. And she's, you know, I think coming out of that, one of, you know, her short stories, The Knife Grinder's Tale, was actually optioned for and made into a film, a short film, in 2007. Her two books, Dust and The Dragonfly Sea, are here, and we'll be referring to them in the course of our conversation. You know, she also won the Jomo Kenyatta Prize for Dust, and I wanted to just pull it out there. Yeah. She won the Jomo Kenyatta International Prize for Dust. And I always find that very ironical. Please read the book and then think about the prize, and you'll see why I'm saying that, okay? But we will talk about it, okay? And I think what else can I say is that she's also published, you know, she was one of the first supporters of a local journal we do call Jahazi, which is invested in local knowledges, putting out local knowledges for people. And of course, I am associated with Jahazi, I must disclose. And Yvonne has also written for Chimurenga, Chronic, Matatu, amongst other writings. So Yvonne, welcome to the panel. My name is Garnette Oluoch-Olunya. I teach at the university, at the Technical University of Kenya, but I've also been researching and consulting for the Go Down Arts Center for a long time, very passionate about the creative industries, probably because my daughters are both artists, so I work in policy and other things like that with the Go Down Arts Center. So thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So to get the conversation started, yes. No. I'm going to ask you, yes. Yeah, no. I was going to ask you, yeah. You know, just by way of introduction, you know, I was, you know, like I think I said, I was listening to Prof. Achille Mbembe yesterday, and he was referring to, you know, he was giving this talk about Pan-Africanism, you know, like I said, and he was referring to colonialism as that thing that curtails our ability to imagine. Now, my panel this morning is all about the imagination, myth-making, you know, pushing those boundaries. But, you know, he said, you know, that colonialism actually, this is Professor Mbembe actually said, colonialism locks us in this instance, making it impossible for us to project ourselves forward. Okay. Now, for me, I found this very interesting because, of course, you all know that at the moment, and for next week, there's going to be 30 presidents in Nairobi talking about taking Africa forward. All right? And so, one of the questions I really want to put to the panel, because we're talking about a South-South dialogue and a South-South linkage, is Pan-Africanism our reply to this push forward for Africa? And I don't know, Yvonne, who wants to go first? Yeah, Alain, you can go first. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting me here. I think that we've been talking about Pan-Africanism for decades and decades. We talk, we theorize, we said everything. I'm sometimes sick and tired of this kind of explanation that the world isn't flat, but it's round, that we can find another way to do this, to do that. But at the same time, you are sitting next to the guy who is leading one of the country, who is like, who caused a lot of damages to the French African countries. I'm talking about Emmanuel Macron. That's what you should have been telling him before coming close to him. I saw Achille in the jet with Emmanuel Macron. So the best thing sometimes is to listen to the people like Bob Marley, who are going to say that we have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. So this mental slavery is carried by a lot of our intellectuals. They put it in a book, we're going to read it, and we're going to stay there just spending our time asking questions, forgetting to go to the action. So Pan-Africanism, Padmore back then, Jomo Kenyatta, all those people over there, they talk about that. It's time to express it with our creation, what we are creating, what kind of role models we're trying to display to our youth. I don't have time to discuss what we're gonna do to save Africa. Now but at the same time, think about me. I came from Congo Brazzaville. We're still speaking French. We don't teach Lingala at school. We don't teach Monokutuba at school. You're good here. You can have literature in Kikuyu, in everything. We don't have that. And for us to exist, we need to wear like a tie and to speak the perfect French, to quote Victor Hugo and Marcel Proust in the same sentence, and to eat bourguignon and camembert, which is smelling very bad. So we need to do something else. We need to do. I'm not changing my views. What I'm saying here, it's written in all my essays. I wrote Le Sanglot de l'Homme Noir. I put it over there. I wrote a book about James Baldwin. I put it there. I wrote a book about Angela Davis. I put it there. I wrote a book about all my travels. I put it there. But they act like, oh, he's just thinking. It's not that. To please the people, I can have the same kind of enthusiasm. But at the end of the day, when everything is quiet, I go back to my yacht. I'm smoking, I'm drinking, and I don't want someone to talk about Africa close to me. That we're going to talk when we're going to meet somewhere close to the president. So here, what we are doing here is most powerful. I was invited over there, but I said, no, I want to come here to help my sister, Angela, I know, because she's African like me. They invited me over there by Alliance Française. I said, no, I'm going here. Because what we are doing here, you see how we are like multicultural. We are helping each other to do something great. That's the Pan-Africanism. You cannot establish the Pan-Africanism only between Africans. We need to talk to the other people. Like when we created Negritude, we had Jean-Paul Sartre, we have Albert Camus, we have Michel Léris, we have all those people. And we need, at the same time, to have a dialogue between Anglophone world and Francophone world, which is not usually the case. Usually they're going to talk Pan-Africanism between writers and philosophers speaking French. And when they come to talk about it in front of you, are you going to be astonished because it's not the same thing? When they created Negritude, which was in French, but the Anglophone world, like Soyinka said that no, le tigre ne se pavane pas, il doit bondir. The action, that's the Pan-Africanism we have to do, and that's what we are doing here. That's a lot for me. When I'm going to go back to Los Angeles, I'm going to be happy because I was like useful to the people. I laughed with my people. I tried to have exchanges, and everything is good. That's what I was.
Thank you. Thank you. Yvonne?
You know, I would dare not add. I was just going to say yes, everything that he has said, yes, plus more. First of all, good morning, and I see some of my lovely friends who've woken up, to show up here. I'm really grateful. It's lovely sharing a space with Alain. We've had conversations in European and Arab spaces. This is the first time we're meeting in an African space, and this refers back to his point, the notion, the practice of Pan-Africanism, rather than the talk, the hot air around it. This is the more practical aspect. And quite frankly, I am going on and on these days about the notion of global Africa rather than Pan-Africanism. The idea of Africas in other spaces, but also Africa in the sea, Africa in the mountains. The boldness, somebody says, I was once criticized for saying this, the idea of authoring the world from Africa. Africa as the protagonist of a story of the universe. That's exactly where I am at this stage. So this kind of forgive the French for forgive the word, the idea of the parochialisms of the Pan-Africanism idea that means that we are supposed to only look within rather than look into the galaxies. I'm interested in Africa in the planets, right? So my notion is either intergalactic Africa or global Africa. That's my preferred term, and that's me. But on the other hand, because of my age, I'm also saying there is a new generation. This thing we're calling Gen Z or Gen K, Generation Kenya or whatever. They have their own kind of grammar, their lexicon, and it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. So to make sure that even in our conversation, we're giving space to the generation to define what it is the world means for them and what Africa is in the world for.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. Yesterday, Achille Mbembe actually did mention that very specific song, redemption song, and he did say, Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And a lot of us say this, but how do we mean it? It's an easy thing to throw out there, but how do we mean it? But I wanted us to reflect a little, and you've already touched on it, on this leadership in Africa, because we are here, we want to be together, we are Pan-African together, but the decisions will be made by the politicians meeting next week. So, when I was thinking about that, I thought of, of course, for me with the Congo, I always think of, the murder of Patrice Lumumba, for instance, in the Belgian Congo, which is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. And if you've been following, you know that, the last of, or whatever was left, the remains were released when just 2 months or 3 months ago, since 1961. I was thinking of, the resistance to, peace in the Congo, with the death or the murder of, the UN Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, because he was going to keep peace in the Congo. So these are some of the things I was thinking about. And then I was thinking and I love this book, Tomorrow I'll Be 20, of, our immortal, President Comrade Marianne Gouabi in the novel, but also, of course, in fact. I want to bring it to this book by Mahmoud Mamdani. I don't know how many of you attended the launch of Slow Poison, Mahmoud Mamdani's new book in Nairobi, I think about 2 months or a month ago. And in this book, he looks at Idi Amin, okay? And for me, I was looking at this as the myth-making around Idi Amin. And he argues for us to look at Amin from a different perspective and through a different lens. He says, I ask the reader to shed certain media-driven preconceptions before reading this book. The first of these is that Amin was a Hitlerite presence in Africa. Amin's public performance, especially his buffoonery, was an integral part of his style of governance. He invited his adversaries to underestimate him. And of course, he killed over 300,000 Africans in Uganda. Now, in Tomorrow I'll Be 20, you have young Michel, the protagonist, describe this same Idi Amin. And this is really, was also my perception growing up. When I read your book, I thought, oh my goodness, yes, I really get this. You describe him as a monster who, and I'm quoting here, got more and more crazy by the day. He killed off entire villages. And if you didn't agree with him, he'd cut your head off or your genitals. One who ate his victims with salt and spicy pepper. And after he had a really big dream, he expelled the Asians. Okay, so he dreamt this. Now, for both of you, how might you respond to Mamdani's argument today? That Amin is not so bad, that we need to revisit him.
Garnette, I don't know if it's about a response to Mamdani or a need for certainly those of us who are trying to reimagine not just Africa futures, but the future of the world, given the state of things right now. To understand, and none of us is naive not to see exactly what's unfolding in the world right now. The spaces of silences, the edited histories, the idea. It's not just a single story, but a single idea of who gets to be seen and known in the world. I think we've all woken up to the awareness that so much was not just propagandized. The idea of Amin as a buffoon comes after he relinquishes the hold of the British and the Israelis from Uganda. So what am I trying to say is that everything that we have understood as history, or everything that not understood, everything that we have received as history, certainly as people of the global south, and particularly from Africa, has not necessarily served the truth or served the vision of who we are as human beings. We are constantly aware of this. There is a lot of work that now needs to be done in terms of retrieval, recovery, reassessment. The history we've received is the one that says that who was that idiot who was roaming around and said he had discovered Mount Kenya, a mountain that existed, and it's written in the textbooks, right? Or what's the other thing they discovered? They discovered the Indian Ocean. It was always there, right? And the fact that I think there's just a hell of a lot of work that needs to be done, particularly by those of a new humanity. And I think it's exciting work to retrieve what is available and rewrite a story of lives. Going back to that thing, to understand now with the lenses of this particular age, to look back at the information we had received, the idea of the African big man, who crafts that mythology, the idea of the African buffoon. I'm amazed by, I mean, when you look at the records around Idi Amin, the stories of Idi Amin, it's almost as if the one telling the story was inside Idi Amin's cupboard watching him with the intricate details of the cannibalism, the thing that we received. And you kind of wonder, how did you know, right? So I'm not saying Idi Amin was a saint. He certainly was not. But there is a call, I think, for a new generation, as Dani has done, to look again at the knowledge and the ideas that we had received, not just about the personality of Amin, but for all the other stuff around the African continent. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Mabanckou, I wanted to just say that in your novel, you actually remind us that Yasser Arafat was his best man. I think when he married his fifth wife, because they had an OAU meeting and Yasser Arafat was there. So when you talk about, the Israelis, and then when it came to giving, the Palestinians space, an office, he actually gave them the very building that the Israeli embassy was housed in. So, these are the kind of provocations that Amin actually carried out. But do you have any thoughts around Idi Amin?
Yes. That's the beauty of writing a novel. Yeah. A novel is built on prejudices, what you were listening to back then. Don't forget that the main character or the narrator is like 10 years. All the information is coming from his dad. And his dad is listening to Radio France Internationale, which is French radio, in which the French people like to depict Africa like the place people are eating the cousin on the dinner, and for the dessert they're gonna eat, like, I don't know, the twins and so on and so on. So I didn't want to change it with my eyes of today's. If you are writing a novel, stay in your era. You cannot judge with the eyes of today's what were our beliefs back then. So the novel is my kind of innocence, the way I was seeing the world. I talk about Idi Amin Dada. I talk as well about Ceausescu. Ceausescu, we were singing his song. We were saying Papa Ceausescu is coming. We're not going to be angry again. We're going to eat thanks to Papa Ceausescu. And next time it's going to be another dictator. So it was for us like a shock to see that Idi Amin Dada is killing the village, he's doing something, he's doing that. That the same element they put in the movie. I don't know, the Forest Whitaker, the Last King of Scotland, the same, the doctor who was saying that they put the same kind of ingredients in it. For me, it's a great novel. It's easy to write about a dictator than writing about a resistant or opposant. The dictator has all kind of ingredients. The novel gonna be smiling as he's writing the phrase. Read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, or even whatever, chronique d'une mort annoncée, I don't know the title in English. Marquez is better when he's trying to exaggerate, when he's trying to put this kind of irony, where he's kind to, instead of writing, is like doing a kind of dessin animé, this kind of BD. So I'm proud of what I was thinking about Idi Amin Dada back then, because it's part of the history. It's part of how the developed world is depicting us. They were trying just to say, you have in front of you one of the biggest monsters of our era. But at the same time, you don't need to be Idi Amin Dada in order to put your people in kind of desperation. Look, I was 13 years when Sassou Nguesso was president in the Congo. I'm 60 now, he's still president. You see that good? So between Idi Amin Dada and Sassou Nguesso, I don't know where I'm going to put my, I don't know, you know. Okay, hopefully the Congolese embassy is not here. Anyway, I cannot go there because I'm forbidden to go there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing us back. Now I want to think a little about nation. That idea of nation. And in Dust, I'm going back to Yvonne's Dust. One of the characters, Nyipiri, explains, what country means, to his daughter. And so I'll read from. I love sharing from the novels so that it also encourages. It encourages you to visit the desk and get it for yourself. Now, Nyipiri tries to explain the country to his daughter. He stumbles. How to say, we've been at war since before your birth. When the nature of this war, how to say, we've been at war since before your birth, when the nature of this war has been its silence, invisibility, a perfect camouflage for truth. Citizens blind and deaf, even as when they saw neighbors being hauled away, crying. Some buried bodies of mysteriously smashed up relatives and addressed their anguish in riddles that only archangels might decipher. Provincial officers and chiefs passed decrees in village after village. From now on, we shall not speak of so-and-so again. Anybody who mentions this name is an enemy of our nation. Afterward, nobody was even willing to admit that so-and-so had ever existed for the sake of peace. Now this is 2015. Okay, I'm overwhelmed. This is 2015. And I don't know if you've been living in Nairobi or Kenya the last 2 years. And it's no different. People are still disappearing. People are still afraid to talk. So, Yvonne, if we're struggling with nation like this, and you're the myth maker, you're the imaginer, the builder of dreams, how, if we cannot trust, at nation level, at East African level, do we trust at Pan-African, at the, we're talking South to South, we're talking Africa as one. How do we trust or even embrace a larger myth?
Oh, goodness, Garnette, what a question. I don't know. I really don't know. But maybe it starts with a human being. It starts with us. First of all, do we want to live together? I'm just curious, it's a question to you. Do we want to live together? And if so, if we want to live together, what does it take then for us to live together in a way that is that allows us to thrive and to be the best human being we could possibly be? Maybe that's where the question should start. So it's things that I was told when Jerry told me that her team insisted that we needed to talk about the notion of myth making, because I think I went on and on somewhere about saying, actually I've been chastising African Union. They don't even have a story, a collective story, a coherent story for the whole of the African continent. We operate in Kenya without, it's not even a philosophy. We don't even have a believable story of what it means to be Kenyan. That is why when we meet policymakers, they all sound like they are marionettes. They all sound like puppets, speaking SDGs and MDGs and World Bank things, almost as if they're hypnotized, because they do not have, there's no coherent story about us. Who are we? Beyond the who are we, what are we here for? What does Africa actually mean? And that's it. I think maybe that's where we would need to start. There's not a single African country, not even South Africa, that has a mythology about itself. And I want to mention that because I know we keep talking about China, China, China. And I keep looking at China over and over again because I think in 1999, Kenya was donating tea to the Chinese so that they could survive an earthquake. In the year 2000, when I was still a bit of a fool and I thought that I was going to change the world to social development, at the University of Reading, we decided not to go to China because it was going to be too difficult for us. So we went to Ghana instead. We were going to China to teach them how to do participation around, one of those social developmental bullshit terms, right? We're going to teach them to count using pebbles on the ground, which is what we ended up doing in Ghana instead. So it's not that long ago when this was what the China idea was. But what they did, I'm not going to go into the full details. I came a bit OCD around that. But it's a very simple thing. When you look at this thing called the BRI, Bridge Road Initiative, basically it's a story that China offered itself. They told themselves we were a 5,000-year-old civilization. We were connected to the Silk Road, the global monsoon complex, which is also ours. This is who we are. And this is how we write the universe. We write not just China, we write the universe. We write the world from China. Can we do that here? And that is where we would need to start, Garnette. That's. I don't know if it answers your question, but that's where we need to start.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. Wow. Okay, because when I was thinking about Yvonne and this myth making, and of course I'm also thinking about your book Dragonfly Sea, and you talk a lot now about the Indian Ocean as being part of this new imagination, and I think it's in May. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading something in the local paper. And they were talking about, because there's been a lot of build-up to this meeting with the president of France coming in, and they were talking about the minister from France, the foreign minister, having chats with our local people, and the foreign minister is actually the minister for foreign affairs and the Indian Ocean. For me, I think of the Indian Ocean or the Swahili Sea as Yvonne's Swahili Sea, because she does go on about it. And then they also have a director, of Africa, who again is in charge of the Indian Ocean. And yet, part of this myth making for us, like the China have the Silk Road, you argue would be the Indian Ocean. So how much ours is it? And I'm putting this in the broader context where I think it was Zainab Badawi who did a BBC documentary, and she was talking about, the fear of the ocean for a lot of black people, because of the Middle Passage, because of that being, it was looked at as a way out of the continent and into slavery. And so that has kind of tended to curtail our mythification in that direction, and that's just one aspect. But this is why I wanted you to just share a little before I go into maybe one or two questions. Where if we are restricted on on ground, on earth. And, where we thought we were going to go, to the ocean, already boundaries are being drawn there. Where does that leave us?
I'll even extend this question to Alain, because they are custodians of the biggest and most amazing river. It's a climate on its own. So I will, before I extend it to him, I'm going to backtrack a little. When the European migrants came roaming around this part of the world, the notion of African agency, remember the British at that time, we're back to that stage again, the idea of custodianship or guardianship or control of the seas was very much elemental in the construction of the notion of supremacy, white supremacy and geographical supremacy. So when they meet Africans in Iran, Persia, in India, and all these places, it becomes absolutely essential to say that as long as you've got a black person in this part of the world, they've only gone there as cargo on somebody else's ship. And their relationship with the ocean is one of fear. Because to admit that, for example, Pate Island to this day was one of the centers of shipbuilding, but shipbuilding of boats that were purchased by people from Asia and West Asia as well, would imply that Black Africans in particular, had agency and authority and technology over the waters. And in the construction of who the African was, to do that would have undermined the big myth. I'm deliberately using the word myth. It would have undermined the agenda, the story of the world that was being created, right? So you see it repeated again. So right now, one of the major American documents, and even the EU now, are calling themselves, how dare they? They're calling themselves Indo-Pacific countries. You see, the Atlantic is no longer in. So suddenly they've propped themselves and popped up in the Indian Ocean and calling themselves Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific people. But in each of those documents, not a single mention of East Africa as an Indo-Pacific, region is referred to. Nor is the west of Africa mentioned as an Atlantic, space. So when I speak global Africa, I've planted a flag right in the middle of the ocean. But it also means then our own people, our own policies. We don't even have, we have to be very muscular about laying claims to our, not just the history. Our history precedes that of Europe in the ocean, by the way. To lay claim to our custodianship and history of relationship with the world through the ocean. But like I said, I would ask Alain to maybe speak also about the river, because again, it's the same notion. You'll always notice that no African is allowed a boat on the river. You're always waiting for the European to show up with their boats. Okay.
Yes, you're right. I have the chance of living close to the Atlantic Ocean, and also the Congo River. So the Atlantic Ocean reminds us of the slavery, the fact that they were taking people to bring them far until they're going to reach the United States of America in order to be sold over there. And the Congo River was and is still a mystery for us Congolese, because it was maybe because of that river that the Congo was divided. We were just a Congo kingdom. That's why we speak Lingala on both sides. That's why we eat the same food on both sides. That's why we date the same woman on the other side. That's what we live in this kind of Congolese way. But at the end of the 18th century, when Belgium and France were fighting for the territory, they sent people to go seek the territories for their own countries. So they sent Savorgnan de Brazza to go seek the territory for France. And they sent Stanley to go seek the territory for the Belgium. But both of them arrived at the same time, close to the river. They plant the flag. It's our country. It's our country. And before the war between France and Belgium survived, they said, oh, calm down. We are so good here. Let's go in Berlin. We're going to talk this quietly. We're going to eat and we're going to divide the continent. That's the beginning of the boundaries, the frontiers you have right now, including yours here, because they said this is going to belong to the Britain, this is going to belong to the German. Even the back then, the German, they have like Rwanda and Urundi, they have Cameroon and so on and so on. The territory which were taken after the war, when the German lost everything, they took like Burundi and Rwanda and gave it to the Belgium. And when the Belgium left it, they left it to the French. That's why you're gonna see that Congo River have this kind of mysticism. As we were growing, we thought that Mobutu were like going to the neighborhood, catching all the, how do you call paralytic? The one who
Disabled?
Disabled,
is
catching
politically
them
correct?
and catching the disabled, catching the albinos and throwing them at 2 a.m. in the Congo River in order to be powerful. At the same time, we were taught that if you go like close to the Atlantic Ocean, you stay there by starting 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., you're going to see like a nice girl who's going to appear over there trying to comb the hair. And if the girl forgotten the pen, the comb, and then you got it, you're going to become rich. So it created a lot of myths about Africa. So that's why when you read like The Heart of Darkness from Conrad was seeing Africa from afar. But African literature coming from African try then to explain Africa within Africa, with the population talking. We are no longer like just witnessing how everything is being done. We are the actor, the protagonist inside. So for me, the river, the ocean are the main protagonists or our imaginary, our myth. And it's very important to be proud of those gifts, but at the same time to be like, we need to dig to see what is going down over there. Maybe we're gonna find that key, which was like lost back then, and which gonna help us to open the big door in order to like face the lights.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh dear, well, there you have it. A river runs through it. Okay, a river runs through it. So, maybe 2 quick questions, if, okay, there we have 1 and 2. Okay, thank you. And just make your question very brief, running out of time. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My question is about Good morning, everyone. This is Anna Ziambo from Lusaka, Zambia. My question is about mythology. As literary people, I feel that we tend to rely a lot on Homer and the Greeks and some of the Romans still when it comes to myths. As for me, most of the myths I know are about Jupiter, Demeter, Prometheus. How can we start to explore African mythology? Thank you.
I'm hoping I can summarize this. I think my question goes to Yvonne and to Alain. We see you here, we see you have succeeded. And you've sat in spaces that you've described where you're trying to write Africa from Africa, write the world from Africa. What I'd like to ask is, tell us how hard that has been. Tell us the hard journey. Tell us, those of us who are maybe in different disciplines, who find ourselves sitting in those spaces, and you try to write the world from Africa, but suddenly you realize you don't even have the language quite for it, because the description of you already precedes you. And when you try to speak of who you are, there is hostility, or there is fear, and then there's no money to do the things that you need to do for your people. So how have you navigated those spaces? We see you now here at the other end, but tell us a little bit about that journey so that we too can write Africa, or what you've had to do, the dance you've had to do, if any, to be able to write the world from Africa.
Thank you. Any of you can start?
The question on myth. It's by the way, welcome again. Did you fly it again? She also flew in for Makala. It comes all the way from Zambia. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. You know, the more insidious myths are the ones that end up in our policy documents that we do not see. It's the myth of, what do you call it? What's that thing? The manifest destiny in America that allows them to roam all over the world creating chaos. Right. It is the idea of I actually think our challenge is that we have not exposed ourselves to the language of the myths that end up becoming not just policies, but the notion, for example, democracy, the trademark. You know, who are supposed to be the custodians of democracy? Who is always exporting democracy? Exactly. And and when you ask, is it true? Has it got truth? No, it does not. It's a story. So our challenge actually is not even the home. Our challenge is to the recovery of our own kind of archetypes. You know, the appropriation of the lion, for example, and that's a living African archetype. But everybody else appropriates it. Yeah? But this is our challenge as the creative, is to return not just the archetypes, the symbols, the dynamic symbols of life back to the continent, but to be able to look at the subtext that underlies all these things. So, for example, in our country, the reason why our policymakers all sound the same, they're always waiting for the solution to come from the imagined West, who are the custodians of all knowledge, have got the revelation of secret understanding of what life actually means. And I'm not being necessarily sarcastic about them. I'm being irritated about us, the fact that we have got the power to invent and imagine, but we do not. So as you're talking about that's where my primary concern is. So I'll leave that. I know Alain will have more to say. But thank you very much for your question. Look, we look successful only because we have persisted in the art, so to say. But beneath this, our feet like the duck, working extremely hard. It's still not easy. And it will not be easy as long as the world is framed as it is. Actually, right now, part of the reason some of us are cheering on the Iran situation is because it might actually open up space for a new kind of imagining for us. It will allow some of us who have refused to speak or write from. Nothing against those kind of stories. I will not write about the African immigrant finding themselves in Brussels and realizing how amazing they are because they're suddenly in the metropole. I'll never write that story, right? I will write from within this space, but it also then means that, quite frankly, I'm aware it makes certain kinds of people uncomfortable, or certain kind of institutions uncomfortable, it'll mean that my books will never, some of them may, but not all books will be put up for the prize, because it does not confirm a certain kind of idea of who the African is. You will not find the village witch doctor in my books. You will not find the sacrifice of the goat in order for the ancestors to speak in my books. But in certain stories, you will. But because those are missing elements in the idea of who the African is in my story. But it doesn't matter, because my, I'm blessed in that I have a global audience, the kind of, I've got a tribe of readers who will love my work anyway, and enough. So, it's not easy, and it's a constant fight. My other life is as an essayist, as keynote presenter. Twice in Germany, I've almost had to flee, but I make no apology about that. I make absolutely no apology. I always tell people, if I'm not making you uncomfortable, and to remember that I'm a Siberian wolf brought into a hen house. If I'm not making you uncomfortable, then I'm not doing my job. But yeah, so it's not easy. But what does it mean? If you love story, do it. If you love the continent and it inspires you, do it. Don't do it because you're going to get accolades. Do it because if you don't do it, you will stop breathing. Yeah.
Okay.
I was saying yes, because you said everything which can be said, but at the same time, the real myth I learned came from the other literature from Africa. What I was reading about Amos Tutola, what I was reading about Ngungi wa Thiong'o, what I was reading about Cyprien Ekwenzi, and I was wondering and saying to myself, maybe all the societies have the same myth, but it's displayed depending of the region, the zone, or the place, the location you are. The myth of the creation of the world, each society have its own. I don't remember that African writer, like he was explaining why we have only one moon. Back then it was like 12, and someone was like hunting all the moons until he arrived to the one, and he saw the grandmother inside, and he no, I'm not gonna kill my own grandmother. That's why we have like this kind of light during the night, when it's like the moon is there, plain moon, half moon. We're gonna have a lot of conversation about that. I'm quite sure that's what is happening here, that's what is happening maybe in Oceania. Every society have this kind of myth. But concerning us African, they tried during the colonization, during everything to say to us, your myth is not that good, Zeus is here, Jupiter is here, and then we tried to forget that we needed our own myth, and we needed those myths to brought it to bring it in a big stage so that it's gonna belong to everybody. So I'm learning a lot about what is happening in Colombia, what is happening in Peru, what is happening here in France. You see the Breton, they have their own myth compared to the people for, I don't know, close to, what the island? Ajaccio. Bastia, the name, no. Corse. Ah, come on, man. It was a shame for me. Well, of course, I was over there, so that it was so nice that each time I want to talk about the beauty of that island, I'm forgetting. I don't know why, but so I think that it's very important for me to know a lot about African myth, because I'm supposed to know everything about Africa, but at the same time, it's not the case. each time I'm finding something new. I want to learn this language, but I cannot learn because when you are already an adult, you are afraid of doing mistakes, you know? If I want to learn Swahili, I want to, they're going to laugh my accent. I want to learn, I don't know what kind of language. It's the same. The myths are within the language you are talking. The more you are learning a language, the more you are getting the keys to open the explanation of the word. That's why we should be afraid of the people who speak a lot of language, because they can destroy or build the word. So I hope that by learning a lot of languages, we're going to be more tolerant, open, in order to say that we have one of the biggest myths is the creation of the humanity. So explain it, whatever you want to do, but just think that do it for the sake of our humanity.
Okay, and just very, very quickly, sorry, do you find it easy to write, and are you know, because that
Yeah.
was part of her question.
Yeah.
The success that you found in writing, did that come easy?
Because when I'm writing, I don't like, I have not this kind of believing that I'm writing in French. Everything is coming in my own country, Congo. I'm not a quick translator. As soon as I'm seeing something, I know already what kind of words gonna be there. And when I feel that maybe this is only in my own language or in my own universe, I cannot explain it in French, that the moment will maybe create a kind of other French. When you read like Amadou Kourouma, they say, yeah, he's writing, it's like Malenke, something. No, it's a writer. The writer is someone who is like working the language, is working everything, the character, everything goes with what, who you are. My books are who I am. So like playing the guitars, he was playing like Papa Wemba. I saw Papa Wemba over there. So he was like, for me, Papa Wemba, when he was singing, Mbota maya tongo na tongo moyeko bimabutu ina sango ya mawa mboka mobimba eko lela. That was crazy, you see? That's the myth. Someone from Kenya is singing. The myth is also when someone else is trying to express his love for another country, another culture, like Mbili Abel singing Nakena Irbobi, Nakozonga na Duni. That's maybe one of the best gifts he gave to you Kenyans. Everybody gonna forget Kenya, but when you're gonna sing that song, you're coming back in Kenya. Because Mbili Abel tried like to explain how her relation was connected with Kenya.
Okay, thank you very much. Alas, it's time. Okay, and we know the myth is in the language, and the things that bring us together are things like the music. That's what really speaks to, you know, the soul and the spirit. And so I'll ask you to please give a huge round of applause to our panelists. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mabanckou. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourselves. And now I think I'll hand it back to Aliyah, who is breathing down my neck like a dragon, but you cannot see it.
Thank you so much,
Aliyah.
Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
incredible, incredible gift. Please join me in giving them just so much gratitude. This was so beautiful. For the music and the poetry and the insights. If I can ask you to stand for a photo so we can record and archive this moment. please. And whilst they smile, and you smile back at them, make them feel very appreciated. Remember that the authors are around after this. I know that it's like, but there's so much more to say. There's so many more conversations to have. So please do find each other after the session and talk to them, talk to each other. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Garnette. And I want to give just a very, I want to say thank you to the people who helped make this possible. Give a shout out to some of our main festival partners. I mentioned Open Society Foundation. We've got Nairobi City County and British Council UK Kenya Season 2025. So now listen, before I intro the next session, for the Kenyans in the house, Tukokadi. Friends, for the Kenyans in the room, Tukokadi. Okay, all right, so now I want to introduce to you the next panel.